Okay, so we're going to go over your Unit 10 test review. Please be aware that your test will be tomorrow, which is Friday. Okay, before we get started with the review, let's go over a few notes from the unit. To find a net worth, you take your assets and you subtract your liabilities. So your assets is whatever you own. Okay, so everything that you own, it would be an asset. So you'd find your total assets, and then you'd find your total liabilities, which is everything that you owe. So this would not be yours. This is what you owe. And so you would find all the total of your liabilities. So you find those totals and then you subtract them. Okay, so it would be assets minus liabilities to find your net worth. Okay, now about expenses, you can have variable expenses and fixed expenses. Your variable expenses, they change from month to month. Okay, so it's not the same every month. It may not be. Your fixed expenses, they don't change. Okay, so they pretty much stay the same every month. For example, rent. You pay the same amount every month, and so that'd be a fixed expense because it didn't change. Just a reminder of how to change a percent to a decimal. You move your decimal twice to the left, no matter what. It moves two numbers to the left. Okay. Also, tax. Tax would be added to the original amount. Okay, so after you find out what the percentage is, you would add that to the original amount that you pay. Discount would be the opposite, so that'll be subtracted from the original amount that they gave you. Okay? All right, let's get started. Number 1 says Craig and his brother decided to visit the mall to buy a pair of shoes. Craig found a pair of shoes that originally cost $60, but he gets a military discount of 20% off. His brother had a $15 off coupon to use on a pair of shoes with an original cost of $70. How much more did one brother pay than the other? Okay, so how much more means eventually we're going to be subtracting to find the difference between the two. Okay, so they say that Craig has a shoe that cost $60 originally, and he will get a discount for 20% off. So I'm going to make a section for Craig. And so he has $60 and he's going to get 20% off. So the first thing you have to do is find out what 20% of 60 is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change 20% into a decimal. Okay, so remember the way we change a percent to a decimal is we move the decimal twice to the left. Okay, so with the whole number, the decimal's at the end. That's where it starts, and then you move it twice to the left. So you would end up with 0.20 as a decimal. So we're going to multiply this by 0.20 to find 20% of 60. If you do that, you will get 12. Okay, but then don't forget it's a discount, so it has to be subtracted from your original amount. So we're going to do 60 minus our discount that we just found, which is 12, to get the new amount, which will be $48. Okay, so that's what Craig is going to end up spending. Now let's find out about Craig's brother. I'm going to make a section for him. Okay, his brother had a $15 off coupon. It's just $15 off of the original cost of $70. So it's just going to be 15 off of 70. So it's going to be 70 minus 15 because he just has $15 off. It's not a percent. So if I subtract that, I will get $55. Okay, and so they want to know how much more, and so we're going to do 55 for Craig's brother minus Craig's cost, which is 48, to get our answer, which should be $7. Okay, number 2 says Amanda has a net worth of $61,546.21, and her assets have a value of $75,876.90. If her assets decrease by $4,591.26 and her liabilities decrease by $6,748.32, what is her net worth? Okay, and so I want to focus on the fact that they say the assets are going to decrease by this much and the liabilities will decrease by this much. Okay, so I'm going to make a section for assets. Okay, so it says originally her assets were this much, so I'm going to take this $75,876.90 and subtract, because it says decreased, by this amount, which is $4,591.26. Okay, if I subtract that, I will get $71,285.64. So this is going to be her new assets after it decreased. And I'm going to need this for later. So what I'll do is circle it for right now. That's not my answer. That's just the new assets after it decreased. Now I want to figure out about my liabilities because I need both in order to find the net worth. So I'm going to make a section for liabilities. Okay, I know that they said the liabilities decreased by this much, but it didn't give me the original amount like it did my assets. So that means that I have to find it myself first. So your formula said net worth is your assets minus liabilities. Well, if I have the net worth and I have my original assets, what I can do is take my net worth and assets and subtract them from each other to find the liabilities. Okay, so I want to find the liabilities, so I'm going to take these two that I have and just subtract them first. So I'm going to do my assets, my original assets, which is $75,876.90. Subtract that net worth that they gave to me, which is $61,546.21. If I subtract that, I get $14,330.69. And that is the original liabilities that they did not give to me that I needed. Okay. Once I have my original liabilities, they said that decreased by $6,748.32. So I'm going to take my original liabilities that I just found from subtracting my liabilities and net worth and subtract what they said it decreased by, which is $6,748.32. This should give me my new liabilities after it decreased, which is going to be $7,582.37. Okay, so this is going to be my new liabilities after it decreased. Okay, so the only thing with this one is you had to find the original by doing the difference between the assets and the net worth, okay, before you did your decrease. Okay, now you can plug it into your formula to find the net worth. So you're just going to do your assets minus your liabilities. So you're going to do your new assets after it decreased minus your new liabilities after it decreased. So I'm going to end up doing, and I'll do it over here, my new assets, which is $71,285.64 minus my new liabilities after it decreased. So $7,582.37. And I will get my answer, which is $63,285.64. $703.27. And then just make sure you know you're talking about money, so that'll be dollars. Okay? And this will be your final answer. Okay? All right. Number 3 says the table below shows the budget for the Addams family. Okay? What percentage of the total income is the Addams family saving for retirement? So just make sure you look for the one that they are asking for. They're asking for the retirement savings, okay? Which is right here. Okay? So what percentage of the total income? Make sure you know that they already gave you the total income when they said income. So this is the total income. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the savings, the part that they want, and put it in a fraction. So this will be 240. That's the part that they want. The savings out of the total income, which is 5,000. And then to get a percentage, I'm going to multiply that by 100 when I'm done. Okay, so you got your part that you want, which is the savings over the total income, and then multiply it by 100 to get your percent. So first thing you would have to do is you would have to do 240 divided by 5,000. Just make sure you know that the 240, when you're dividing by hand, will go on the inside of your house. Okay, if you do that, you will get 0.048. Okay, then don't forget you're going to multiply it by 100 to get to the percent, which is basically you moving your decimal twice to the right. Okay, and if you do that, you will get 4.8% as your answer. Okay, so number 4 says the table below shows Courtney's expenses for the month of December. Which expenses would be considered only variable expenses? So just remember that variable means that it can change. It's not fixed. Okay, so it can change, it varies, it might change, and so that'll be variable. So the ones that can change, well, my rent, that's fixed. It's usually the same amount every time. A car payment, that's pretty much fixed. That'll be the same amount every time. Christmas gifts can change. Okay, it might change from year to year. And food and drink, that can change. Maybe I might not need the same amount every time. So groceries can change. That'll be variable. And your gas can change as well. You may not spend the same amount on gas every time. And so your answers would be Christmas gifts, your food and drink or your groceries, and your gas. Okay. And so all of these are variable because they can change. Okay. All right. Number 5 says the table below shows the federal income tax for wages earned in 2021. Then it says Alexis just got hired for a job with an annual salary of $76,240. How much can she expect to earn after paying income taxes? Okay, so this is her salary. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to find out, okay, where would her salary fall in this table? Okay, well, 76,240, we're to see what number is that in between. That'll be in between 40,126 and 85,525, okay? So that number falls in between there. So this percentage for income tax rate is what you'll be using when you solve. So only this one will you use, okay? All right, and so the way we would do that is we would take what we have, the salary, 76,240, and multiply it by the decimal of this percent, okay? And the way we change a percent to a decimal is to move it twice to the left. So you have 22%, If you have a whole number, the decimal starts at the end, and so you move it twice to the left, so 1, 2, and so the decimal's in front of there, so it's going to be times 0.22. Okay, if you do that, you're going to get 16,772.80. Okay, and then remember, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take that away from her income, because taxes is something you have to pay. So this is how much you would have to pay in taxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract this from her salary. So it's going to be 76,240 minus 16,772.80. Okay, and then when you are subtracting, make sure that you add the 2 zeros so you know you have to borrow. Okay, don't just assume you're going to bring down the 80. So make sure you add those 2 zeros. All right, if I do that, I will get 59,467.20. Okay, as my answer. Okay, so number 6 says, Bugs invests $3,520 of his check at the Looney Tune Bank at a 6% interest rate, compounded annually. Daffy invests that same check amount at a 6% simple interest rate. What is the difference in their balances after 2 years? Okay, so first thing is they're asking for the difference, so I know at the end I'm going to subtract because that's what difference means. Okay, and then what you're really doing is you're comparing your simple interest to compound interest, and so you would have to find both. These are the formulas that go along with each of these interests. Okay, so these are actually on your formula chart, which I will provide to you on testing day, so you don't necessarily have to memorize this. You just have to know how to use the formula. Okay, so for simple interest, it's going to be I equals PRT. So I stands for interest, your P stands for principal, or the amount that was deposited into the account. Your rate is the percent given as a decimal, so you would have to change your percent to a decimal when you put it in for rate. And then the T is your time in years. Okay, and then you pretty much just going to multiply those 3. Okay, so simple interest is pretty simple. You just multiply the 3 and just make sure you do those specific things that I talked about. Okay, with compound interest, your A, even though it doesn't look like it, it represents interest. P is the principal amount, which is the amount that was deposited. And then you will have a 1 that is always here. Okay, plus the rate, which you will just write your percent as a decimal. And then to the exponent of t. Okay, so not times t, it's the exponent of t. So make sure you know that it's going to be the exponent. And t is just your time in years. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so for simple interest, that'll be Daffy, right? Because they said Daffy is the one that's going to do the simple interest. Okay, so I equals the principal amount, the amount that he invests. Well, he invests the same as Bugs, which is 3,520. Okay, you're going to do times your rate as a decimal. Well, the rate is 6%, and so I'm going to have to change the 6% into a decimal. So I'll do that on the side. Okay, and the whole number, the decimal starts at the end of the number, and then you move it twice to the left. So it's here. If you have a gap, you would always put a 0, and so that changes into 0.06. So 0.06 will be your R, and then times your time in years. They said it's going to be 2 years, so I'm going to plug in a 2. Okay, and so I'm going to solve that by simply multiplying. So If I multiply these three numbers together, I'm going to get 422.4. Now, you did that right once you got to that point, but the only thing is you have to add that onto what you already had in your account. Okay, so Daffy had the same amount, so I'm going to have to add this to what he originally had. So it's going to be 3,520 plus what he just earned, which was 422.4. Okay, if I add that, I'm going to get okay, I know you can't see it, but it is 3,942.4. And so that's what he has for his amount. I would also change that to a 40 just to make it into money. But for right now, I can keep it that way because I'm not done doing my math. Okay. I still have to take care of Bugs and his compound interest. But this is what it is for Daffy. So just make sure you know you're going to add this onto your original amount that was deposited. All right. For compound interest, you're just going to plug your numbers in to this formula. So it's going to be, well, A equals the principal amount, what he deposited. Well, Bugs invested 3,520. Open parentheses, and you're going to put your 1 because that's part of the formula. And so it's just there. Plus your rate as a decimal. And so we already found that 6% as a decimal. We move it twice to the left. You get 0.06. Okay. And then to the exponent of t. And so the time in years is 2 years. And so just make sure you know it's an exponent. And hopefully you know how to work with exponents. Okay. All right. We'll keep on solving. A equals. We're going to take care of these parentheses first because according to the order of operations, the p comes first. So parentheses. So 1 plus 0.06 will be 1.06. Okay, put your squared or your exponent of 2. What I'm going to do is take care of my exponent. And so when you do this, you are not doing 1.06 times 2. The exponent says you're going to multiply that number by itself this many times. And so if it's a 2, you multiply this by itself twice. So it'd be like this. 1.06 times 1.06. If it was a 3, you would do it times another 1.06 after. So however many times this says is how much you multiply it by itself. Okay, if you do that, just so you know, you'll get 1.1236. Okay, so I'm just going to add that in here. A equals, put my 3,520, and then I found out that 1.06 to the second power, or multiplied by itself twice, is going to give us 1.1236. Okay, and your last step is just to multiply these two numbers. Okay, so 3,520 times 1.1236 is going to give you 3,955.072. Now, on the other one, we had to add that extra amount into, or at the end of our problem, okay? We had to add the amount that he earned. We had to add that to the original amount. But for compound, you don't have to do that because this one takes care of the fact of whatever was earned already, okay? And so I'm not going to add anything onto this. This is already done once I have solved for my compound interest. It's already done. And so it wants to know the difference between them. So I'm just going to take these two numbers, okay, my final numbers, and subtract them from each other, okay, because that's what difference means. So I'm going to be doing my compound interest minus my simple interest. Remember, after I added in the interest to my original amount. So that'll be 3942.4. And then my answer will be 12.672. Okay, the only thing is you have to remember you're talking about money. And with money, you can only have two numbers behind your decimal. Okay, and so you would always round to the nearest hundredth, because you can't have three numbers behind your decimal if you're talking about money. So if I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth, I look behind the number. 2 is not big enough to change to 7, and so the 7 will stay the same. So my answer will be $12.67. Okay. Number 7 says a dentist makes an annual income of $169,340 and will pay a 4.9% income tax rate. What is the amount of the income tax rate? Of the income tax that the dentist will have to pay. Okay? So all I'm going to do is take this number and multiply it by this percent as a decimal. Okay? So I'm going to do 169,340. And then I have to change this 4.9% into a decimal. Even though it has a decimal, it's not called a decimal because it has a percent sign. So in order for me to change it to a decimal, just like before, I have to move the decimal twice to the left. This time I see where it's at. It's not at the end. It's right here. So we start from here and then we go 1, 2. Okay, if I have a gap, I'm going to put a 0. So your decimal is going to be 0.049. So multiply by 0.049. And if you do that, it will get your answer, which is $8,297.66. Okay? And it just wants to know the tax, and so you're not trying to add in to see what the price is after the tax, so you're just going to leave it right here. They just want to know what you would add. They didn't tell you to actually add it in. Okay? So that is your answer. Number 8, the data in the table represents monthly budget for a family living in Palm Bay, Florida. Okay. The mother earns $1,891 a month, and the father works 50 hours per week. Assuming that a month has 4 weeks, what minimum hourly wage does the father need to meet the family's estimated minimum monthly budget? Okay, so what you're going to have to do for this one is add all your amounts together. Okay, and if you do that, well, they actually already gave you the monthly total, so you don't even have to do that. But that's what they did, okay? So they added these together, and they gave you a monthly total of what you would have to pay, which is $3,610, okay? So I have to pay this much, and they said the mother earns $1,891 a month. So I want to know what the father would have to do and what he'd have to pay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my monthly total of what I have to pay and subtract what the mother pays to see what's left that I have to pay. So she has to pay this much. Okay, so let's see what's left of our monthly total after what she earns. If I subtract this, I'm going to get 1,719. Okay, so the father needs this much so that they can get their monthly budget, because the mother earns this much, so she doesn't earn enough. He has to make at least this much. So they're trying to see how long does he have to work in order to earn this much. Well, it says the father works 50 hours per week, and there's 4 weeks in the month. So what I'm going to do is see how many hours that is. And so I'm going to do 50, and that's for 1 week, but there's going to be 4 weeks. I'm going to do 50 times 4. So he's going to end up working 200 hours. So let's see what he'd have to get paid in order to take care of this amount. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these two numbers and divide them, okay? So I'm going to do 1,719 divided by 200, and I will get 8.595. Okay, so that's right, except for with money. Remember, you can only have two numbers behind your decimal, so you're going to have to round to the nearest hundredth. So you have 8.595, rounding to the nearest hundredth, which is your 9. Well, your 5 is big enough to change this. Well, it's going to change into a 10. And so you can't write 10, so what you're going to have to do is push the number before it up 1 as well. And so your answer is going to end up being $8.60. Okay. Okay. So, number 9 says that Nicholas is planning to buy a bed that has an original cost of $690. It was selling for 30% off plus 5.4% sales tax. How much will Nicholas spend on the bed? Okay, well, first thing you want to do is find out what 30% off of 690 is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take that 690 and multiply it by the decimal of 30%. Okay, so remember to change a percent to a decimal. What you're going to do is you're going to change or move the decimal twice to the left. Okay, so we have 30%. Okay, you want to change it to a decimal. So if I have a whole number without a decimal, I'm going to put it and start it at the end and move it twice to the left. So I would end up getting 0.30. So I'm going to do 690 times 0.30. If I do that, I'm going to get 207. Okay, then don't forget that's going to be 30% off. So I found 30%, so now I can take it off of the original price. I have to take it off. Don't forget about that. So it's going to be 690 minus 207, which is the 30% off. If I do that, I'm going to get $483. Okay, that's after 30% off. Okay, but you're not done. Now you're going to have a 5.4% sales tax. So you're going to take where you were, which is 483 after the 30% off,